Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. It's Moneyman Cam from Stock Explaining, and we're just going to go ahead and cover some charts. Today we had the release of the FOMC minutes, and it was definitely an interesting reaction. I think a lot of it was already priced in, but whenever you have like these binary events where there's a lot of anticipation, especially for events that are pretty forward-looking and can have big implications, there's always going to be an initial reaction. So there was a pretty strong move. I mean, we made a low of like $443 today on SPY, and then finished around 400, went up to about 448, and I think finished at like 445. So we'll take a look at that. But the big thing to take away from here is tomorrow is going to be more important, arguably, than today, because tomorrow we're going to see markets fully digest this news. So we'll just go ahead and identify some support and resistance levels, and it should be a pretty quick video. I won't ramble too long, so let's just go ahead and get started. So I think the big thing for today is obviously, the FOMC minutes was released, and this was, I believe, from their meeting in mid March. I think it was about March 15th or 16th, and they talked about how they could have moved more rapidly on policy, but due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, um, they decided to just move with a 25 basis point increase. So I think this is what kind of spooked investors, because they understand that the Fed is now a lot more hawkish than they were before, and it makes complete sense because inflation is just absolutely eroding the purchasing power of the lower and middle classes, and if you can't get inflation under control, or at least in this case, show the illusion of control, then you're going to have much bigger problems, and the implications, especially for those in power, it does not bode well. So there's a midterm coming up, and a lot of those in power right now are definitely feeling the pressure. So I think they are more incentivized to act. But right now, many are saying between 6 to 10 increases in the interest rates this year. Who knows? We'll see. But I definitely think it'll be interesting if they decide to move forward with a half point increase next month. So really, they're trying to go for kind of a soft landing per se, and not spook markets. In my personal opinion, it would be better if they just moved forward with a 1% uh, uh, increase, rather than just kind of playing around with 0.25 and zero point 0.5. Because if they could do that, then I think the initial shock will be over, and I think markets will be more adjusted rather than kind of just playing this dancing game. But we'll see. So first chart we're going to look at is the S&P 500. Um, so I think what was really notable to me today is, aside from this gap down that we had above average volume, still not as high as it was March 30th. But what's more fascinating is we broke this pennant that we had formed, and we have a MACD that looks like it could potentially be crossing. Now, obviously, MACD is a moving average convergence divergence is a lagging indicator, so it can only tell us so much. But this would be potentially the first cross since that low we made March 14th and 15th. So that would be pretty significant for me. But what was really interesting was we actually closed below our daily 200 SMA on this gap down. So bulls were not able to close that gap, and they were not able to reclaim this level. Now, we do have an indecisive doji. So this could go one of two ways tomorrow. So we could close the gap tomorrow, or we continue lower for a little bit and then test that 50 SMA on the daily, maybe move back up, lower high gets established. Maybe we could flirt around with this 200 SMA level, establish an equilibrium, and then it's either we continue lower, or bulls are able to make that push higher. So definitely it'll be interesting to watch the next few days. Last week in our Discord we mentioned that SPY's weekly finish was not the strongest. So we could maybe see a test of the low 440s, maybe even the high 430s. Really, the best thing to do is just be market agnostic right now. Don't have a bias in either direction. Just kind of know the probabilities, and when a trade presents itself, you just take it. I think what we really need to watch though is actually the hourly trend, because this will be more indicative of uh, potential trend changes, right? So we have a close below this uh, hourly 200 SMA, but what was really interesting is we actually tested it twice today, and or actually we could argue maybe three times, and each time we did, we rejected from it. So this is kind of a warning sign, I think, for bulls right now, because bulls have lost the hourly trend, and they had actually they've lost it for some time now, but this was a pretty significant move once we dropped below this pennant. We had a gap down, but the fact that we could not reclaim this level, about 448.93, I think that is a little bit concerning. If I was a bull, I would significantly, reduce my bullish positions um, until we would reclaim this level, because uh, right now the probability that we move back towards 443 is much higher, in my opinion, than moving towards 448. And it's just a simple fact that we have pretty substantial volume. We gap down. Okay, so that's not that big of a deal. We gap down. But we gap down and we tried to break and fill that gap, and we could not. And we rejected pretty harshly. So that's not really a good sign. Um, and that's something that if I was a bull, I would be really, really cautious about. Now, bears, where is your ideal entry? You should be looking at a retest of this 200 SMA, and notice how our 20 SMA is also falling through it. And if you get a rejection there with some notable volume, then that would be your play, and you'd hope that this pattern of slightly higher lows being established gets broken, and then you would just kind of work your way lower. In terms of support and resistance levels to watch going into tomorrow, the big support level to watch is going to be 443.46. If we can hold this level tomorrow, maybe we can form a double bottom and we could slowly work our way back up. Now, if this level does not hold, the next level you're going to be looking at is going to be 441.12. That would be approximately where your daily 50 SMA is. Now, in terms of resistance, the level that you need to be watching is around 448.93. But do note that if tomorrow we see further bear follow through, then expect this level of resistance to be lower, probably maybe say around 447.99. So maybe we just call it 448. If we do manage to break through this level, then we will be looking at filling that gap. So then our resistance becomes 449.92. Now, how I'm playing this tomorrow, I do have two OTM contracts, so I might be playing these. And I'm really just going to be looking at closing them tomorrow morning. I don't think I'm going to hold them. They do expire on the 8th, so that'll definitely be a quick trade. So now we're just going to go ahead and move on to QQQ. So very, very similar pattern, and right now everything's kind of moving in tandem with each other. Obviously, tech was hit a lot harder today, more significant gap down. But notice there's two things that are differentiating this chart from SPY. The first thing is we have lost, or I should say, not only we have been below this daily 200 SMA for some time now with QQQ, rather than just losing it in SPY's case. But we are actually nearing our level of support around the daily 50 SMA. So this is pretty notable to me. If we lose this, then I think the probability that we uh, move towards 337 is much higher. But this is definitely a level to watch. Similarly, we had a pennant that formed, broke below, so not a whole lot to say. But what was very fascinating for me was our volume was pretty significant today. MACD also looks like it's crossing. But what I would really pay attention to, and I think what's going to be the key indicator here, is going to actually be the RSI. Now, I just drew a rough line here. So our RSI level of 33.34 is what you want to watch. And the reason why is because notice once, twice, three times, four times, we've bounced off this level four times. If we retest again and break through, that will be very, very notable. And I think bears will then be able to really push us lower. I think, if we see this level break, then we're talking, back down to the lows that we saw in mid March around the 14th. I'm going to remove that. Now, in terms of support and resistance levels, the support level to watch here is going to be 350.22. So that roughly coincides with the daily 50 SMA, um, but also the bottom of this candle that we formed. If that doesn't hold, again, as I mentioned, 345.68 is on the table. If we get a more significant move, then I think we should be eyeing most likely then probably around $340. And you'll notice that I'm switching back and forth between the hourly, 4 hour, and daily charts. Usually having this multi-time frame approach is really, really helpful. And when things are very, very choppy, especially like how this market has been, kind of flipping back between the hourly and daily has really, really given me more clarity. Just because you can kind of see like the finer movements, but it's not too narrow and focused like the 5 or 15 minute chart, where trends there's a trend within a trend, and you kind of um, lose focus of the bigger picture. Tomorrow for the bulls, they need to defend this level. They need to defend this hourly or this 4 hour 200 SMA. If they cannot, and bears manage to push a close below it, then the probability that we move lower back towards that March 14th low increases very, very significantly. Now, if bulls can prove themselves tomorrow, not only hold this level, but maybe make a push towards our 4 hour 50 SMA, then I think we could see movement maybe towards the end of the week back up towards 368 to 371. But I think today is definitely a good reminder that just as quickly as markets can go up, I mean, we saw that insane rally, about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. Just as quickly as these things go up, they also can go down. So, always have your tap dancing shoes on and always be ready for either scenario. All right, so IWM certainly got hit really, really hard. So I'm going to go to the daily chart here. Yeah, this is notable for me. We barely held onto natural resistance at $200, but we gapped down and closed below this daily 50 SMA. And the last time that we tested this level was March 17th. We broke through it and we saw a massive move up. This time we're breaking below it, so we could see a move lower back towards probably 197.26, and then our next support would probably be around 191. But really, the big thing to watch here is we had a rough, very, very rough head and shoulders, and we gapped down below that neckline. So this 4 hour 100 SMA, I would argue, is going to be the most important level, even more important than the 4 hour 200 SMA. The reason why is it's right where the neckline is for this head and shoulders. So what we could see is a similar situation to the VIX that we'll get into in a moment. where you kind of see the price kind of flirt with this 200 SMA level, move higher, gets rejected, can't hold, and then we drop right back down. So this 100 SMA, I think, is going to be the real level to watch. So again, in terms of support, $200 natural resistance needs to hold tomorrow. If it can, I think the bulls can, slowly push back towards, 201 and then maybe up to 203. But if not, then 197.26 is on the table. And maybe we see, 195 be tested as well. So I'll go to that alert for that. And then maybe we make the push back down to 191 to 192. Now, what really differentiated IWM from the other two charts is, when we broke bull from this pennant, we never really saw a whole lot of consolidation. But just in the last 2 days, we've really started to get it. We lost that pattern of higher lows. So I think IWM still has a ways to go, especially relative to the other markets and indexes. In terms of resistance levels to watch, again, we mentioned 202.58. But if we can break that level, then probably 203 to 205 is the level that I would be eyeing. Okay. And so for the VIX, this was certainly an interesting day. Yesterday, I had mentioned very specifically in our end of day brief in the Discord, I mentioned watch this 4-hour 50 SMA. If we break above this level, then markets are going to get hammered. And today we did exactly that. We tested it and then just leapfrogged off of it. But what happened was right when we got to our daily resistance level, our 100 SMA and 20 SMA confluence, we rejected pretty hard. But for those who are hoping volatility is going to go right back down, I would be a little cautious here because we actually did manage to hold this 200 SMA pretty well. Now tomorrow we could drop below it. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think for at least until the next, FOMC, I think we are probably going to see VIX kind of move back and forth and establish this range really between this trend line down here and our 100 SMA. Now we did finish above this daily 200 SMA. We also have our 90 MA bouncing above, so this could create a short-term level of support. I wouldn't be surprised if we retest this 100 SMA on the daily, so it's just something to kind of be aware of. If we do manage to break above it and we break above this high of this candle, then definitely a VIX, back up in the 26 range is possible. If we break this, I think we're going right back up to the 30s. I think that would create a lot more tension in the markets, and I think we would see more whipsaw action, kind of like how we saw 2 weeks ago. Now, in terms of support levels to watch, that daily 200 SMA is going to be pretty important. Tomorrow, we could see a break below it. If we did, then 20.25 is going to be the level I am eyeing. If that breaks, then really the next level is probably going to be around 19. So really, it's just going to be this hourly and 4-hour chart. That's what I would really keep an eye out for. And notice our RSI has a lot of room to work with. Consistent higher lows. We have a lot of room. So this could potentially form a bull flag and push higher. All right, and last but not least, we have Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, let's go ahead and go to the daily chart here. We also formed a pennant, and we had a pretty red day today. So I just kind of want to take a moment to address this because As you guys know, I'm quite bullish on Bitcoin and a few other of my projects that I'm invested in. Um, but days like this are not good for Bitcoin, not necessarily because the price went lower, but because of the correlation to the stock market. All right. If you want Bitcoin to be its own asset class, then it needs to behave independently from stocks. It can't just keep moving with the stock market. And right now, this correlation is at, I think it was a 17-month high. And, part of the problem is when you have institutional money that comes in, to, these new asset classes like Bitcoin, they're still bringing in the mentality of a stock trader or a bond trader, right? And so what happens is you have these assets that really should behave differently, but they don't because they're being traded like stocks. And I get it, everyone wants to make money and that's the, ultimate goal. But until this correlation breaks, it's not necessarily going to be well for Bitcoin, I think, in the short term. But my theory and the reason why I'm so bullish is this could be the flight to safety asset. So, there's always news about central banks, being inept and obviously corruption in other countries, and we know we're already seeing, you know, uh, many notable players buying Bitcoin. I think Terra Labs and Do Kwon are from Luna are actually going to be backing Luna with Bitcoin, and I think they're buying insane amounts. Last I checked, they bought like 5,000 uh, Bitcoins, and Michael Saylor added more Bitcoin. I think he owns like 1% of the supply now or something like that. Or that's his goal. So it's just pretty incredible. So the buying is still there, but it's kind of interesting how it's not necessarily correlating to the price. But anyways, what I'm watching here is a retest of this 50 SMA, 100 SMA confluence. So I think we could potentially see a retest of 41 to $42,000. If we can hold that level, then I think we're going to be able to work our way back up. Or what could end up happening is tomorrow, we form an inside candle. So maybe we have a few days inside trading action, and then the market makes up its mind and we either move higher or we move lower. So certainly many different possibilities. But in terms of support levels to watch going into tomorrow, 41.9 to 42,000 is going to be the level that you're going to need to watch. Could be a good buying opportunity if we can hold that level. I know there are a lot of people that want to buy Bitcoin or, want to dollar cost average into it. So you take advantage of these red days and, you want to buy at levels of support. So that would be a perfect opportunity for entry. In terms of resistance, 45,000 has been a pretty stubborn resistance level. We've tried to break above it. We managed to for the last week, but we've dropped now right back below it. So 45,400, so we'll call it roughly 45.5 is a level to watch. And if we can break above that, then we're going back to this level of this pennant, so around 46,000. And then it's going to be that push back to 48,320 on the daily 200 SMA. So that is a key level to watch overall, 48,320. If we can break that, I think that will be the definitive proof the bulls need, and we can see fear go back into FOMO, and we could see that rapid movement again in the crypto markets. So I also do want to mention that we did take a few trades. I've it's kind of been a mixed. We've kind of had mixed results, kind of day trading the S&P 500 lately. It's definitely been a lot of whipsaw action, but we did manage to have three successful day trades last week and one loss. This week we did initiate a swing position that was slightly bullish on SPY. That ended up being closed out. But we did have a pretty fantastic trade on AAVE, so AAVEUSD. And I mentioned to everyone in the Discord, I mentioned to them that, I think that AAVE is going to be seeing pretty significant price movement because they're currently um, finishing up their network protocols, and I think they were onboarding a few more chains as well. So pretty significant stuff, pretty exciting. And now that we kind of have a little bit more clarity with DeFi in terms of government regulation and strategy, I think that was also a positive tailwind. But what I ended up doing is right around this level, right around I believe it was about $167. I noticed on, let's see, where was it? I noticed that on the 4-hour chart we had this tight level of support with our 9 EMA and 20 SMA kind of hugging each other, which definitely gave me a lot of confidence in that regard in terms of a strong support level. And then we entered here, and I believe it was the next day or the day after, Aave had a massive 20% increase. And, so we entered at 167. This trade made a high of 261. So, that was almost a $100 gain, pretty significant in just a few days. So that was pretty awesome. I'm still holding it because I definitely think this project has a bright future and it's very, very exciting. But yeah, that was definitely a trade that was pretty awesome. It was in a Discord, so for any of our premium members, they got that alert. So that wraps up the chart analysis. Tomorrow is definitely going to be a telling day. So you have your levels of support and resistance. We're going to see how things play out. Definitely let the trade come to you. There's a lot of good setups out there, and there are a lot of good setups on individual names. Personally, for me, just because of this whipsaw action, I'm just sticking to ETFs right now because that's just what works for me. But tailor this to your individual trading style. I hope it was helpful. If it was, definitely like this video, share it if you can. I'd really appreciate a subscription to my channel. And also check out the link in the video description. The invite to the Discord should be there. And so the Discord is actually free for all members. And then if you want access to alerts, then you can pay $30 a month. But just the actual morning and end of day briefs are completely free. All the chat rooms are completely free. So definitely come on by. We'd love to have you. And we just want to keep growing and fostering a community. So take care, and we'll see you soon.